A mother has been arrested in connection to the death of her 7-month-old baby. 20-year-old Kailia Tolle was charged with multiple counts of criminal mistreatment and family abandonment. During a welfare check early Tuesday morning, police found Tolle's 2 children alone in their home. The 2-year-old was severely malnourished and a deceased 7-month-old was found in the bassinet. The toddler was transported to the hospital and then transferred to a Seattle area hospital for treatment. The investigation is still ongoing, and anyone with any information about this case is asked to call the Yakima Police Department. YPD will also be hosting a news conference to address the public on this case tomorrow.
Officers to go to my fucking house. Can let it please, your baby. Please, baby.
I need an officer to go to my side. I can't. My baby. My baby. These are the words of Kailia Gully on her to 911. She called 911, hysterical about her baby, but refused to say where she was. When police finally tracked the location, what they found raised more questions than answers. Between February 20th and 24th, 2025, investigators believe Gully made a decision that would change everything. Leaving her children alone in their apartment as she traveled to the Tri-Cities to visit a boyfriend, allegedly without food or water. Days passed. On the morning of February 25th, at approximately 7:15 a.m., she returned. What she found inside would trigger a frantic chain of events. Instead of staying, she fled. Moments later, a 911 call comes in. Her voice shaking, breaking, desperate. She cries, she panics. She mentions ending her life, but refuses to say where she is. Officers are left racing against time, forced to track the call themselves. When they finally enter the North 6th Street apartment, the truth begins to unfold. Inside, they discover the lifeless 7-month-old and a 2-year-old fighting to survive. Then, another twist. A friend receives a chilling message from Gully, revealing her location at Squaw Rock Resort, nearly 40 miles away from the scene. Police move in. She's taken into custody and brought in for interrogation. Police describe the apartment as deplorable. There was old, rotting food, overflowing dirty diapers, and a complete lack of basic care items. The 2-year-old was found so malnourished that she had wasting of the muscles and was unable to stand or walk. During the interview, Gully's behavior was erratic. She shifted between discussing her aspirations as an Onlyfans creator and expressing extreme guilt. When shown photos of her children's condition, Gully claimed they were naturally skinny or refused to eat. But medical examiners stated the level of starvation and the severe diaper rash/blisters occurred over a period of weeks, not days. She claimed she left the children with a woman named KK, who had no phone and lived with various boyfriends. Detectives noted that Gully could not provide a last name, address, or any way to verify this person's existence. We are about to show the evidence that investigators say proved this wasn't just an accident, but a choice. As we uncover the truth for these 2 little girls, let us know where you're tuning in from, whether it's here in Washington or across the globe. Seeing your city in the comments shows the world that we are all watching, and we all care about accountability. At 7:27 a.m. on a frigid Tuesday morning in Yakima, Washington, a 20-year-old mother named Kailia Gully placed a call that would haunt the veteran dispatchers of Yakima County for years. She wasn't calling to report a crime in progress or a medical emergency she was currently witnessing. She was calling to announce her own destruction. But while Kailia was threatening her own life from the safety of a vehicle miles away, 2 small souls were trapped in an apartment on the 100 block of North 6th Street. Within minutes, Yakima Police Department officers arrived at the North 6th Street complex. They expected a welfare check or a potential suicide intervention. What they found instead was a scene that pushed the boundaries of human depravity. The air inside the apartment was thick with the stench of decay and ammonia. Scattered across the floor were remnants of a life abandoned, old, rotting food, overflowing piles of soiled diapers, and trash that suggested no adult had cared for this home in a long, long time. In the center of this rot, officers found a 2-year-old girl. She was alive, but barely. She was so emaciated that her ribs protruded like a skeletal cage, her skin sagging where healthy toddler fat should have been. She was suffering from advanced starvation, her body literally consuming its own muscle to stay alive. But it was the bassinet in the corner that stopped the officers' hearts. Inside lay a 7-month-old infant. She was cold to the touch. The medical examiner would later determine she died of severe dehydration. A slow, agonizing death that occurs when a child is left without a single drop of water for days on end. As the 2-year-old was rushed to the hospital in a desperate race against organ failure, a massive manhunt began for the woman who had left them there. Police had tracked Kylia's location after a friend reported a chilling text message. "I'm at the resort. My baby is dead." Officer: "Hands where I can see them. Kylia Gully, step away from the vehicle." Kylia, calm, almost detached: "I was just using the Wi-Fi. My car is out of gas." Officer: "Get on the ground, now." As the handcuffs clicked shut, Kylia didn't ask about her surviving daughter. She didn't ask if the baby in the bassinet had been a mistake. Instead, she began a 45-minute monologue that would leave seasoned detectives questioning everything they knew about maternal instinct. By 3:16 p.m., she was sitting in an interrogation room at the Yakima Police Department. She was 20 years old, facing a lifetime of consequences. And yet, as the cameras began to roll, she seemed more concerned with her social media presence than the fact that her daughter was currently in a morgue. This wasn't Kylia's first brush with this kind of horror. Years earlier, in 2023, neighbors had reported a similar scene. Dogs left to rot, one dead, one skeletal. The system had let her walk then. But today, the evidence was no longer a pet. It was a person. Kylia Gully thinks she has the perfect alibi. A mysterious babysitter named KK, who she claims vanished and left the children to die. But as detectives dig into her phone records, they find a trail of travel, boyfriends, and Onlyfans aspirations that suggest the babysitter never existed. Wait until you hear what Kylia says when the detectives show her the photos of her own children. In cases of extreme neglect like this, where the mother has a documented history of animal cruelty, do you believe the legal system should have intervened sooner? Let us know your thoughts on mandatory reporting in the comments. As the clock hit 4 p.m. inside the Yakima Police Department, the atmosphere in the interrogation room shifted from a welfare check to a homicide investigation. Detectives had just come from the North 6th Street apartment. They had seen the vacant stare of the 7-month-old and the skeletal frame of the toddler. But sitting across from them, Kylia Gully was talking about Onlyfans. She was talking about her brand, her dreams of becoming a Playboy bunny model at state parks, and how her kids would one day think she was pretty. It was a jarring disconnect from the reality that one of those children was currently lying on a cold steel table. But then, the detectives stopped the small talk. They needed to know, who left those children to die? The suspect initially denied sole responsibility, repeatedly referencing a third party who had allegedly abandoned the children, while the suspect was out of town. However, No digital or physical evidence of this person's presence was found at the scene.
You just told me you didn't know who...
KK.
Yeah, you don't even know where KK lives.
She comes around. She lives with her different boyfriends right throughout the thing. They never come over, but she always just like, when she's done with them, we have our little bit on about how guys really works, blah, blah, blah. Then, there's like one named Devin, like...
Tell me a little bit more about KK. I'm trying to understand, because apparently...
So KK...
If she's your babysitter watching your kids,
Yeah,
you
so
have no information about her.
we were friends for a while before anything, like, I would ever ask, like, her to do that.
What's her name?
Catherine.
Catherine what?
So, I don't know the last name. It's like Mexican. So, I'm sorry, but I'm not ever going to remember that. I call her KK. I never expected...
How did you get a hold of KK?
How would I get a hold of KK? I would call Serial next door.
Who's Serial?
Serial is the next door neighbor in the back.
Detectives had already spoken to Rock. They had already spoken to the neighbors. No one knew a KK. No one had seen a babysitter. What they had seen was Kylia's car leaving the apartment days earlier. Now, while Kylia claimed she was only gone for a half day to get food, her phone records told a different story. The GPS pings placed her in the Tri-Cities area, over an hour away, for multiple days. She wasn't out looking for a babysitter. She was living a different life, while the clock was ticking down for her daughters. As the pressure mounts, Kylia's story begins to fracture. She stops blaming the invisible babysitter and starts blaming the children. She tells detectives that the 2-year-old refused to eat, and that the infant was just skinny. But the detectives have the photos, and they are about to show them to her. This wasn't just a mistake. Investigators began unearthing a pattern of behavior that suggests Kylia Gully knew exactly what happened when you stop feeding a living thing. A neighbor testimony, 2023 Ace. I saw the dogs through the fence. One was just bones and fur, tangled in its own leash. The other one, it didn't move. It had been dead for a while. It looked just like what they found in that apartment on North 6th. The 2023 animal cruelty case wasn't just a footnote. It was a blueprint. In 2023, the victim was a dog. In 2025, it was a 7-month-old baby.
They weren't eating.
Yeah, this happens over weeks, not days.
I know. That was not that bad.
While they were in your care.
That was not that bad at all. That was not that bad at all. My child was skinny, but not like that. I have pictures.
Explain how this can happen.
She refused.
While in your care.
She did refuse to eat, so I was giving her only milk because that was the only thing that she would eat.
You mentioned it.
She heard her daughter crying, and she left. By 5 p.m., and the investigation had reached a tipping point. The babysitter had been exposed as a ghost, a convenient fiction crafted to shield a mother from the truth. Detectives knew it. The digital evidence knew it. And soon, the only person left in Kylia's corner, her own mother, would confirm it. In a move intended to break the suspect's resolve, detectives allowed Kylia to place a phone call. They knew that when the doors of a prison cell begin to close, people reach for the one person they think will save them. But Kylia's mother wasn't coming to save her. She was coming to testify.
To be honest with you, Kylia, I don't know what you're calling me for.
I know.
I have nothing to say.
I failed you, I know. Over and over again, and then...
You think you failed me?
I know,
Your daughter is dead, and your other daughter might not survive. What can you possibly say? I have asked...
I tried so long, and then you just kept berating me, and I just wanted to go.
I asked you, I said, Kylia...
I know, and I'm too
Do you
scared.
need Dad and I to take the girls? Do you need any help? Do you need
3-minute phone call did more than any 8-hour interrogation could. It destroyed the narrative that Keelia was a struggling single mom with no support. Her parents had offered to take the children. They had begged to help. Keelia hadn't been trapped by poverty or lack of resources. She had been trapped by a desire to be anywhere but that apartment. The suspect's demeanor changed significantly after the phone call. Whilst the Onlyfans persona vanished, the deflection stopped. For the first time, she was forced to face the reality that her parents were not going to be her alibi. They were the prosecution's star witnesses. As the weight of her mother's words settled in the room, detectives pivoted to the most damning piece of physical evidence: the photos. They laid them out on the table, frame by frame. The first photo showed the deplorable state of the North 6th Street apartment. The second showed the empty refrigerator. The third showed the 7-month-old in the bassinet.
Explain how this can happen while in your care.
She did refuse to eat, so I was giving her only milk because that was the only thing that she would eat.
You mentioned you had taken her to McDonald's.
I know, because that's why she started eating, so I was going to get her some McDonald's because she was starting to eat, and I was happy for her, but I'm not going to just feed her McDonald's to try to get her better, you know?
Alright, let's cut the crap, okay?
No, I'm getting that I'm getting that
So am I. How did this happen? How does this happen over a couple weeks?
She was skinny, but not to that. That is...
While Keelia sat in that room trying to process the loss of her family's support, the legal machinery of Washington State was moving at light speed. Because the children were left for such a prolonged period without basic necessities, the charge wasn't just neglect. It was first-degree manslaughter. But there was a secondary trigger. Because Keelia had knowingly crossed county lines to the Tri-Cities while the children were abandoned, and because of the severity of the 2-year-old's injuries, federal oversight agencies were notified. Her mental clarity snap, as she called it, came too late. The moment she stepped into that car and drove away from those crying children, she hadn't just left her home. She had left her life behind. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As technicians processed Keelia's phone, they found something far more disturbing than Onlyfans photos. They found videos recorded inside the apartment during the days the children were left alone. Wait until you see what the cameras captured while Keelia was miles away. Testimonial evidence. Forensic analyst deposition. We recovered multiple videos and search queries from the period between February 20th and 24th. While the suspect claimed to be looking for a babysitter, her browser history showed searches for luxury hotels in the Tri-Cities and social media engagement. Most disturbing were the draft videos for her Onlyfans, recorded in the same apartment where, just feet away, her children were crying for water. The evidence was clear. The neglect wasn't an oversight. It was a trade-off. Keelia had chosen her digital persona over the lives of her flesh and blood. The mistake defense was dismantled bite by bite. As investigators scrolled through Keelia's digital footprint, the timeline of neglect became a timeline of intent. While her 7-month-old daughter was entering the final, agonizing stages of organ failure from dehydration, Keelia's phone was active. Not with calls to doctors or 911, but with the curated art of a woman seeking a different life. Testimonial evidence. Digital forensics deposition. Between February 21st and February 24th, when the suspect's device shows 0 outgoing calls to emergency services or her parents. Instead, we found over 40 drafts of choreographed dance videos and outfit of the day photos intended for her Onlyfans and social media accounts. These were recorded in the same room where the 2-year-old was found. The audio in the background of one deleted clip clearly captures the rhythmic, weak crying of an infant. The suspect simply turned up the music. This wasn't a mother who couldn't find help. This was a mother who had found a way to drown out the consequences of her choices. On February 26, 2025, Kaylia Gully was led into the Yakima County Superior Court for her preliminary hearing. She stood in a yellow jail jumpsuit, her eyes scanning the gallery for the parents who had just hung up on her. They weren't there to offer bail, but they were there to coordinate with the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, DCYF, to ensure she never touched her surviving daughter again. The judge, reading the details of the probable cause affidavit, the skin tenting, the skeletal ribs, the traumatizing face Kaylia had described, set her bail at $500,000. Official statement. Yakima County Prosecutor. The state is pursuing first-degree manslaughter with aggravating factors. This is a case of extreme indifference to human life. The defendant didn't just forget her children. She abandoned them in a tomb of her own making while she pursued a digital fantasy. As the investigation into the children deepened, the 2023 animal cruelty case was reopened. The similarities were a chilling blueprint for the current tragedy. In 2023, a neighbor had reported 2 dogs at Kaylia's home. One dead from starvation, the other emaciated and tangled in a leash. This case has sparked a fierce debate about red flag laws for child welfare. If someone has a documented history of extreme animal neglect or starvation, should they be automatically flagged as high risk by Child Protective Services? Share your thoughts below. Your perspective could be part of the conversation that prevents the next tragedy. The consequences cascade hit every part of Kaylia's world. Her car, her belongings, and her modest savings were seized or liquidated to cover the costs of a legal defense that was already crumbling. The Onlyfans community she so desperately wanted to impress became her harshest jury. Her accounts were banned, and then her fans turned into the most vocal advocates for her life imprisonment. A permanent no-contact order was signed. Kaylia was barred from ever seeing, speaking to, or even receiving photos of her surviving 2-year-old. In the eyes of the law, her motherhood had been revoked. Kaylia recorded jail call to a former friend. "I'm only 20. I just wanted to go out and be someone. Why is everyone acting like I'm a monster?" Friend, long pause. "Kaylia, you left a baby to die while you went to the Tri-Cities to visit a guy. The monster isn't a label. It's a description of what you did." As the trial date approached, the prosecution revealed their final, most devastating blow: the medical examiner's report. It calculated that the 7-month-old had been dead for at least 48 hours before Kaylia ever called 911. Kaylia Gully had lived in that apartment with her daughter's body for 2 days before she decided she was scared of being pinned. As of March 2026, the case of the state of Washington versus Kaylia Gully remains one of the most harrowing chapters in the history of the Yakima Valley. The legal system is currently moving through its final, somber stages. But the Onlyfans persona Kaylia once clung to has been completely stripped away by the reality of a prison cell. Kaylia Gully, now 21, remains held at the Yakima County Jail on a $500,000 cash bond. The vibrant young woman who once dreamed of becoming a Playboy bunny at state parks now sits at a defense table, facing a reality that no social media filter can fix. Final testimony. Medical examiner report Excerpt. The cause of death for the 7-month-old infant was profound dehydration and malnutrition. This is not a sudden medical event. It is a slow, systemic failure of every organ in the body. Based on the state of the remains found on February 25th, the infant had been deceased for a significant period before the 911 call was placed. During the time of the child's suffering, digital forensics showed the defendant was active on social media and traveling between cities. The mistake defense has been dismantled by the prosecution's evidence. The court has officially charged Kelia with first-degree manslaughter, 2 counts of first-degree criminal mistreatment, and family abandonment. In addition to these charges, the legal system is finally addressing the warning signs that were ignored years ago. The 2023 animal cruelty case, where a dog was found dead from starvation and another emaciated, has been folded into the narrative of her extreme indifference to life. Kelia remains incarcerated, awaiting the conclusion of her trial. The surviving 2-year-old daughter is in the legal custody of her grandparents. Medical reports indicate she has a long road of physical and psychological recovery ahead due to the trauma of starvation. A strict, permanent court order remains in place. Kelia is barred from ever seeing, speaking to, or even receiving updates on the child she nearly killed. In the eyes of the law, her rights as a mother have been effectively severed, and the Yakima community was left to pick up the pieces of a tragedy that felt entirely preventable. The apartment on North 6th Street stands as a silent monument to a failure of human empathy. But this case did more than just punish one woman. It triggered a massive audit of the Washington Department of Children, Youth and Families, DCYF. Official reform statement. Yakima County Advocacy Group. The Gully case exposed a critical gap in our reporting systems. We failed to connect the dots between the documented animal neglect in 2023 and the safety of the children in that home. Moving forward, we are demanding cross-species mandatory reporting, ensuring that when an animal is starved to death, the children in that home are immediate priorities for intervention. Kelia Gully wanted the world to see her. She wanted followers, but she wanted influence, and she wanted a life away from the burden of motherhood. Today, she has exactly what she worked for: a permanent place in the public record, not as a model, but as a warning. Accountability isn't just about a prison sentence. It's about the truth finally being louder than the lies we tell ourselves. The trial is ongoing, but the evidence is undeniable. In cases where a parent has a documented history of starving pets, should the law allow for the immediate removal of children from that home? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of the change we need to see. If you or someone you know is struggling with the demands of parenthood or mental health, please reach out. There is no shame in asking for help, only in staying silent until the silence becomes permanent. Thank you for following this investigation. For more updates on the Kelia Gully trial and other stories of justice, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We will be here until the final gavel falls.